Welcome back to Mindful Endeavors. I am your host, New Age Alchemist. Joining us again is Evan Carden. Before we continue, as always, we have a disclaimer that we are not mental health professionals. We're not giving medical advice. We're just talking about the topic of mental health, the outdoors, and other lighthearted topics. We encourage everybody to seek help if they need it, and if they feel like they need it. Also, we encourage people to keep the conversation going around mental health. All right, so you're back, and this is our second attempt at the episode. We had some user error difficulties last line on my part, but yeah. So join us again. Quickly introduce us for those that haven't seen the last episode. Evan, go ahead. Let us
Sure.
know what a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me on again. I know it was quite the pain to work out around my schedule. I've been ridiculously busy recently, but I appreciate you being flexible. I always enjoy talking with you, especially on this platform. So I appreciate you having me back on. But my name's Evan. I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I like to do a lot of fishing. I also I'm pretty new to hunting. I do enjoy it, but I am not an expert by any means, but I enjoy pretty much all things outdoors. I guess to kind of relate to the topic of the podcast, I have struggled with anxiety and depression throughout my life. Um, it has kind of fluctuated. Sometimes it's been worse, sometimes it's been better. But recently, kind of in the past year or so, with COVID and all that, it kind of, my anxiety at least got quite a bit worse. So I kind of turned to fishing to help kind of dig myself out of that hole that I was in for a bit. And that has kind of blossomed into this wonderful thing that I have kind of started with my Instagram account. That's how I met you. And now, I mean, I have a pretty decent little family on there. I absolutely love it. I've met some fantastic people, and it's crazy. The support that I've seen on that, it blows my freaking mind. I never, ever, ever would have imagined that I would have seen anything remotely close to this when I started the account just for fun. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, because from when I last met you, you were at like I think 1,000 followers on Instagram. Now you're like double that in that time. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's doing really well for yourself. And yeah, I mean that's some of the benefits of social media, right? Like you can connect with people of similar interests and really like get into a community, which I think is important, and we'll discuss about why I think that's important and why I want to get your opinion on that as well later on. But the first topic that we would love to discuss is because since you struggle with anxiety and I've struggled with anxiety, but there's a topic that I was not aware of and I recently just came across by watching a reel on Instagram, which is the whole thing of like high functioning anxiety, right? So it's it's really weird because I've always been a person that's like, I don't like, how different terms, different labels get placed on certain things and they change over time. And realistically, most of the time they change, but they don't necessarily, do anything to solve the problem, do anything to address the problem, or they don't necessarily even bring a new approach to the problem. So it's for me, it's a little tough pill to swallow, but it's something that I think definitely encompasses what a lot of people go through, even though at the surface it doesn't seem like they're going through that, right? So really quick, just to kind of give like a quick I guess a definition of what high functioning anxiety is. And long story short, it basically means that even though you're successful, you're getting a lot done, you still deal with anxiety through different things. Like even though you don't necessarily, you might procrastinate like because of anxiety or for whatever reason, right? But then you might, in like a span of an hour, when you have like 8 hours to do a project, in the span of an hour, you get it all done, right? So there's different things. And so, yeah, like I think we were talking about that in the last episode where we kind of got interrupted by my power going out. But I mean, there's we're gonna go over some of the negative characteristics
Yeah.
first, and like we've talked about this, like talking a lot, chatter, being a people pleaser, having nervous habits. Of course, that's a form of anxiety. We've I mean that's kind of obvious, right? Effect of needing to do repetitive things, overthinking, lost time, the need of reassurance, avoiding contact. That's a big one for me. I don't know what it is for you, but and
Like, you mean physical contact?
oh no, of eye contact.
Oh, okay. I just thought you said physical. Okay, just
Yeah,
curious.
lack of eye contact. Yeah, and then two things that before obviously we talk about because there's a bunch more, but I think the feeling intimidated of the future, and then mental and physical fatigue. Um, I mean, I don't know if any of those resonate with you. For me, it's the lack of eye contact. For a while, I've struggled with it, but yeah, I don't know. What do you want? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I guess there are a couple that really stand out for sure, and I hadn't heard of high functioning anxiety until we had discussed this a bit ago. Um, and I think that honestly, reading through the characteristics and kind of what, the symptoms, if you will, of that, um, I feel like it affects a lot more people than you would think. Some of the, I guess, effects or whatever you want to call it that resonate most with me are the people pleaser side of things. That's something that I was I mean, it's not bad to, be nice to people and help people out and all that, but it comes to a certain point where you are only looking out for others and not looking out for yourself. And that can cause a lot of issues. I know that last time we talked about this, you mentioned that the inability to say no was one of the characteristics that of high functioning anxiety. Um, and I feel like that correlates with being a people pleaser as well.
Mm,
When somebody asks you to do something, no matter what it is, you feel bad to tell them no. And I mean, that's something that honestly, I'm not the best with even now. Um, Most of the time, if someone asks me to do something, unless it's completely ridiculous or I absolutely can't, I don't say no. I like to help out where I can. And I mean, I think that it's a good characteristic to have, but you have to balance it out with looking out for yourself, because ultimately, you're not going to be able to live the life you want to live. You can be making as many people in the world happy as you want to, and that can make you very happy. It does make me happy when I help make other people happy. But you know, you have to, you always have to make sure you're looking out for yourself, and I think that's where the anxiety part can come in. When you're not looking out for yourself and you're not looking out for what's going on in your life, and you're only concerned with others. Um, that can be a very stressful situation. If you just have to deal with everybody else's stuff and then you have to bounce from thing to thing to thing to thing. Um, when you're on your own time, kind of fixing or trying to deal with your own life events, it's tough. Um, but yeah,
yeah,
I guess I can definitely understand a couple of those characteristics for sure.
yeah, because again, going back to what we first said, like I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that the anxiety is keeping you from doing things, right? It's just that you still get anxious being put in certain situations, even though you're being productive. Like for example, one of the things like for me that I've always been anxious about is like getting, you know, I'll do the metaphor like the analogy of like blending two worlds together, right? Um, One of the things I've always struggled, even growing up as a kid, that's why I've always kind of like kept to either to myself, and uh, I made sure that I was very careful about bringing two friends together that were
Mhm.
of different groups, right?
Yeah.
Something that even until not too long ago, I didn't see any improvement. I mean, I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I haven't seen any. I mean, I've definitely made progress, but for the longest time, it was nothing like it was no progress. Like sometimes people. would tell me like, "Oh, how come you don't bring some of your friends or whatever, or a girlfriend, whatever?" And it's like, because I don't want people to be mad at me. Like, like what if people don't like each other and things like that. So there's definitely a people pleasing aspect to that, and that's kind of the reason why, like, for the longest time, I don't, you know, like, I keep everything separate, and I'm slowly learning how to blend things together. But that's the one thing that kind of, for me, I was just like, holy crap, I didn't know, I didn't know that, this is
Yeah.
what it is. Like, this falls under that, right? And granted that we gave a lot of I mean, there is some positive attributes to this, by the way, but for those that are listening, but we gave a lot of negatives, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not functioning, you're not successful. I mean, there's a lot of people that are successful that can't look at somebody in the eye for whatever reason, and it's just the that's just what it is, right? The other thing too that gets me is the fear or being intimidated by the future. Like, because I have to say, like, I'm an oddball, like, because I don't like to plan things, but at the same time, I want to know at least a few weeks ahead of like what's going to go on, and all that stuff. But
Right.
yeah.
Um, I so I've realized, over the years of kind of dealing with my anxiety and kind of trying to figure out, where it stems from so I can take control of it and, either remove myself from those types of situations or, get better within those types of situations. But one thing that really, um, I guess, brings on a lot of anxiety for me is just uncertainty and not being in control of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is just like a weird quirk about me. Like, I do not go in other people's cars and drive with them. I am always, I always drive. Like, I don't care if I have to drive 10 hours somewhere or if it's going to cost me $700 of gas. Like, I'm going to drive. I don't feel comfortable. I have zero control of anything that's going on in that situation. And so I guess you can kind of relate that, lack of control to being, having fear about the future because you really have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. And I think that makes it that much more important. And one thing that I've kind of learned over the last couple of years as I've gone through college and graduated college is that, you know, I need to live in the present more because I was in high school like, oh, I can't wait to get the heck out of here. I can't wait to go to college. In college, I was like, oh, I can't wait to be done with college. This sucks. And now I work and I'm like, man, I miss that stuff. you
Yeah.
know? So I think living in the present is a very big thing that can help with anxiety, um, because then you're not sitting there worrying about what could potentially happen tomorrow, what could happen in 3 days, what is going to happen next week. You have absolutely no idea. You have no control over that, and that just is what it is. Um, I mean, that's something that I've kind of, like I said, tried to learn and make myself better with, like, living in the present so that I can worry a lot less about stuff like that might happen. There's no point in worrying about something that might happen or could happen. You just need to, at least what I do, I just try my best to, enjoy every moment that I have and, live every experience to the fullest. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah. I mean, a lot of times we need to slow things down and really process them, or take the time to actually process them. And yeah, that goes with a lot of things, like the death of a close one, of a loved one. You know, different conflicts with different people, different types of conflicts. So we definitely need to, like, slow things down and, like you said, live for the present. I mean, I feel like a lot of times we get caught, especially when you're working 9 to 5. Sometimes you don't even. I mean, I speak this from experience. Uh, sometimes you don't stop to think, like, hey, things are going pretty good for me right now, and sometimes you don't even realize that. And that's kind of like another thing where it's like, if you get caught in, like, just being really really busy, yeah, you're getting stuff done, but you're still concerned that, you're still, something might be stressing you out. You might be anxious because, like, what if this goes wrong, what if that goes wrong? I have my business, I have two businesses or whatever, and you know but you're getting stuff done. Like, and that's kind of where I guess it's not really a common thing where we kind of look at like this whole concept of high functioning anxiety. It gets overlooked. So it's really beneficial to really slow things down and try to, address situations that way. And yeah, because I mean, me personally, I mean, I figured anxiety was like, okay, you get panic attacks. That's all there is, right?
Right.
But now, now that I'm looking into this whole thing of like high functioning anxiety, I realize that it can come in many forms, and this is one of the things that I do enjoy about this podcast, the fact that, or you just even being in the mental health aspect or world, is that I get to learn different things that maybe I never thought about. And it's something that I can try to better prepare myself in case I do get stuck into that situation, right? Where I come across, I start realizing that, hey, I'm not looking somebody in the eye when I'm talking to them, or, like I'm worrying too much about the future, like what's going to happen with this. And, yeah. And like another one that I probably should have mentioned is like tendency to compare yourself to others, which for me happened a lot, you know, and that happens a lot too in the social media space
Yeah.
because you're trying to be the next this person, the next that person, and you're just like, what I'm doing this, what this person is doing, why is it not working for me? Well, that the anxiety of you comparing yourself to that person is not really helping you out either, so
Yeah. No, I
yeah.
mean, that's why I think it's so important. That's one thing that, if I don't want to sound pretentious or anything or when I say this, but like there are accounts like smaller Instagram accounts or startup Instagram accounts that will DM me and say, hey, how did you do this? How did you get, how did you grow like you have been, like blah, blah, blah. And, the one most important thing that I say to every single one of them is pave your own path, because you are not going to be the next Flair or the next Guggen Squad. You're not going to be the next, Kevin Van Dam. Like, the way to be successful and the way every single one of those people became successful is by doing their own thing because they were interesting in their own way. And so one thing that I guess I'm pretty proud of about myself is that I have gotten pretty good at. I couldn't care less what other people think about me if, unless I care about them. If I care about their opinion, then it matters, obviously. But if it's just some random on Instagram talking that, I couldn't care less what they had to say. And so I don't do a lot of comparing. I mean, obviously I'll look and I'll be like, dang, I wish I had that many followers, or it would be cool if, I got that many likes or whatever, obviously, like stuff like that. But I'm never like, oh crap, look at this profile. I mean, he's grown, 1,000 followers in the time that I've grown 500 followers. What am I doing wrong? And like, why am I not growing that and thinking negatively about it? Instead I like to just think, how can I be different? What can I do that will, what can I do or what can I put out that people haven't seen before or that people will find very interesting? And I think that's where I have seen my success come from. I guess success is a very relative term. I mean, I'm not freaking rich and famous off of this by any means, but yeah, I feel like it's a great success compared to where I started and why I started it. So yeah.
I think the only comparisons that we really should be doing, or anybody really, is to themselves in terms of when you're trying to progress, especially when you've come a long way. Like it's something that you don't always want to put behind you. You want to feel like, okay, 2 years ago I was this. Now I am this in a much better position. Or it could also work as a way of motivating somebody. At least I know for a fact for me, when I've compared myself to myself like a year ago, it's like, oh, a year ago I was doing really well. This year, not so much. Why? You know,
Hmm.
because help compare myself a year from that point helped me really find out the why as to like what did I change that started really like affecting me negatively, or you know where did I lose my progression, where did I lose my productivity and such and such. So I think that's a fair comparison to really do, like compare yourself today to what yesterday. Did you take a tiny step? If not, okay, why not? Things like that. And the important thing is not to dwell on them. The important thing is that you really are doing it as a way of like, okay, just strictly analyzing from an objective standpoint and seeing what you can do better. And that's really what really should, which the analytics that should be taking place. I mean, yeah.
I totally agree. There is nothing wrong with comparing yourself to, your past self, or comparing yourself towards goals or against goals that you have for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it can become an issue when you're, focusing on a celebrity or, some famous person within whatever community you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to be just like them. You know, you're not going to be. Yeah, that it's plain and simple. Like there will never be another Michael Jordan. There's never going to be another Tiger Woods. It's it's just not going to happen. And there will be plenty of other successful NBA players. There will be plenty of other successful golfers, fishermen, football players. But every single one of them has paved their own path and done their own thing to get there. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you can try to be the next, like you said, Michael Jordan or Kevin Van Dam. For those of people that don't know, he's a professional, or is he an ex-professional, or he wouldn't?
I honestly don't know if he's an ex-professional or not, but he's a professional, legendary fisherman.
Yeah, he's definitely a legend in the fishing sport. So, but like you can try to be the next that, but it's like you lose authenticity. If people are okay to sacrifice that, I guess, but sometimes I feel like I see certain people like, that I grew up playing sports with, they're trying to tailor themselves to this person and they don't unlock their full potential because, and I know that because I've seen how they try to play a game the way this, XYZ professional is doing it, but then they get a coach that kind of knows, like a really good coach where, you know, he knows what he has. He's not trying to mold him to what he wants. He knows just how to build off of that, and then their game just takes off, right? You're talking about like plain and simple, like I'll just use soccer because that's what I'm more familiar with. But somebody playing a striking position, which is more of an offensive person,
yep.
versus a midfielder, was more of a set play person. They it's like, okay, well, you're not a scorer, but you know how to set up play. So we need to bring you back down to this. So you're not going to be a Ronaldo, not Cristiano Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo. You're not going to be that, but you can be similar to a Cristiano, like in the sense that you can set plays because you can do your own thing.
Right.
And that happens a lot with even such like stuff like when you're trying to follow somebody that's like a local celebrity on social media, right? I mean, you can try to be that, but I mean, you have something to give, even if it's a small contribution. Everybody has something to give. Everybody can give something to, have something to give. And I think it stifles creativity when you try to like model yourself after the next, and to try to be the next person.
100%. I think I'm sure this is a cliche saying that people have heard a billion times. I don't know, but like, why would you want to be the next whoever when you can be the first of yourself? I can be the first Evan Carden, and that's going to be, oh my gosh, that's the goal. I mean, in some way, shape, or form, I'll be the first Evan Carden out there. Before Steph Curry was Steph Curry, nobody said, oh, I want to be the next Steph Curry. Steph Curry said, I'm going to be the first Steph Curry, and I'm going to kick ass, and I'm going to be amazing. Like, I think that it's very important to look at yourself and look at, why do I believe in myself? Why am I awesome? Why am I doing this? And kind of base your goals or whatever off of gaining strengths and improving your weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you bring up Steph Curry. It's been a while since I watched basketball, but like I remember, a 3-point shooter was like a one, kind of a one trick pony, right?
Hmm.
Um, that's all they were good for. If nobody passed them the ball, they wouldn't really do a whole lot. At least that's what I took in terms of the game. That's my opinion. And then here comes Steph Curry and just kind of changes like the way the pacing of the game is played. Him and others, right? But like, you know, perfect example. He brought his own game to and helped change basketball to a different level, right? It got a lot faster. It wasn't just like get
Yeah.
to the other side of the court and okay, now we're on the other side of the court, so um, let's set a play or whatever, and just drive to the hoop or whatever, or all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that I think that's a good example, and like even then, it's like there's still a lot to be done in that can be like added to like the fishing community and stuff like that. Like
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, like there's infinite possibilities. Even the one exception I want to say, like, I mean, it's not that there's no creativity, but it's like you have landscapes, right? So landscapes, like the way you angle a photo when you take a picture of a landscape, like it's the same landscape, but it's up to the interpretation of whoever takes the photo.
Right.
Because that landscape can look great when you see it, but if you take the wrong angle of it, it can look like crap.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of like creativity, because photography in itself is it's an art form, and if
It's
you don't
tough.
know, right, like like yeah, like if the camera is your paintbrush, and whatever wherever you publish it is your canvas. If you do not know how to take the right angle, you're not gonna do it justice. So and there's different angles that can be made from that not necessarily be seen yet. And you see that like when people take fishing pics.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's always something new that comes out, and you're like, oh, this is so cool, man. I wish I had thought of like posting something like that, or editing a photo to look like this or whatever. One of the recent things that I've seen, just on fishing, the fishing Instagram community, is this guy, his account, he has this super, super nice underwater drone that has a camera. And I don't know if he has his own pond or whatever, but he will get the craziest videos and pictures of him feeding fish or him fishing, or just the fish coming up to the um, like just coming up to the drone and hitting at it because it's going close to their bed or whatever. And that's something that I'm like, holy crap, like I don't see a lot of videos like this that are super, super clear. Like, people have GoPro videos that you can take underwater, but this is something else. Um, and it's just like that, and I'm sitting there looking at like, well, dang, I wish I had a drone like that. That would have been really cool to be able to take all these pictures and videos. But, you know, well, he did, and that's his thing. Now I just got to go find my own thing, whatever that may be. You're muted right now.
Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, again, your contribution is yet to be seen, or it may have already been given. You never know. Like you might have inspired somebody to do their own thing.
Mm.
I mean, like there's an account where all he's doing is posting pictures of baits and snacks, and that's his thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever done that. That's just his thing, and everybody like I laugh with depending on what kind of snacks he puts, because like, oh, I remember those, or all this, and that's just something he's bringing to the table, and that's awesome, and you get that, and like I mean I'm still trying to work my way. I have some ideas and I'm throwing them out there, but yeah, like even then I'm just doing it for fun at the end of the day. Like I'm not trying to post for the sake of posting. Like I want to make sure that if I do post, even if it does well or bad, I mean, yeah, well or not, um, that if it's something that's good quality and at the very least tries to tell a story or tries to hint at a story. Those are my
Sure.
two goals. Sometimes I only hit the first one, the second one, not so much. But, like how do you tell a story with the least amount of words? Because again, we're also dealing with shorter attention spans than normal. So,
Right.
uh, it's just what we've come to. I mean, it's not a knock on anyone or a knock on the human race, but it's just it is what it is. So how do you tell a story with the least amount of words? That's kind of like what I'm going for. But yeah, but let's go with positive attributes of high functioning anxiety because we don't want to be completely negative here.
Yes, I wanted to bring circle back to this for sure.
Yeah, because oh, by the way, so this is I pulled all this from an article called actually from the source is verywellmind.com.
Okay.
If, so for those that want to go on and look at it themselves, but all right, so positive characteristics. Believe it or not, there is some positive characteristics to this. Outgoing personality, that's a good characteristic. Being punctual, being proactive, being organized, and being detailed oriented, active, helpful. Again, we talked about how like people pleasing part aspect, like you want to try to help the best you can. Being passionate and being loyal. So sometimes now, okay, there's one where it says appears outwardly calm and collected. I don't know why that's there. I feel like it's actually no, because like we talked about how it's surface. It's on the surface. They seem kind of cool, but yeah. So yeah. Any of those resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the punctuality one. To be honest, I am. I mean, unless hell freezes over, I'm not late to anything, especially anything that's important. I would rather get there 30 minutes early than be 2 minutes late. Um, so that's definitely one. I guess, like you said, just kind of being an outgoing, helpful person. That is, I would like to think of myself as that. I try my best to be as helpful as possible. Um, I know I'm definitely an outgoing person, that's for sure. But I guess the it appears, calm, cool, collected. Yeah, I think it's like that. If you've seen that meme where there's the dog sitting at the table where his house is, he's just reading the newspaper in his entire I think it's kind of like that, or it could be. Sometimes it is like that. Sometimes I can be, in a meeting at work or having a conversation with somebody and seem just fine, and nobody could be able to tell I'm freaking out on the inside or like trying to suppress a panic attack or something like that. But I think that it's important to make the distinction that if you're an outgoing person that likes to help people and is organized, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are dealing with high functioning anxiety or anything like that. Just like it doesn't mean that if you are a people pleaser that you're dealing with this. I think that everybody deals with some sorts of anxiety, and whether that be just for like a test or a performance or just meeting up with some people. Everybody experiences that. I think the key with I don't want to say like self-diagnosing. That's not a very great term to use, but the key with kind of learning and trying to deal with the fact that you may have some type of anxiety. The key there is kind of repetition with this kind of stuff. If you're dealing with it regularly, then I think it could be, issue. And as you said, we're definitely not medical professionals by any means, and I just know what I know from my personal experiences. But I definitely think that there are a lot of positives that can come out of dealing with something like anxiety and depression. And I think that I try my best to use it to my advantage in whatever ways that I can. I think that I try my best to be as empathetic as possible with people, because I understand how the smallest, craziest things could set me off. I understand that I might be completely comfortable in the situation, but if somebody else is freaking out or they just don't enjoy it, I have to understand. And this is this is how they feel. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just, it is what it is. And I think that empathy is kind of something that anxiety has helped me gain a lot of in my life.
I think you froze a little bit. Yeah, you were talking about empathy, right? Empathy has
Yeah.
helped you out.
Yeah. I was saying that, anxiety has kind of, dealing with my anxiety has led me to kind of be more empathetic towards others and understanding of, any situations that they can be in, no matter how crazy or weird it might look at the surface. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's good. I mean, the thing obviously that what I'm getting at is that you know high functioning anxiety can is still an issue, right? But I guess it's kind of a little bit of being optimistic in the sense that even though you're people may be an anxious person, but there's still some positive. I mean, the positive of being a high functioning anxious person is that you're always on time because you're you tend to be a little bit early. Actually, not a little bit, but significant early, significantly early, detail oriented, and things like that, right? I think though it's a very fine line, like when you're being helpful or a people pleaser,
Good
like
point. Yeah.
there's a fine line before it drives you from being helpful to being a people pleaser. And when you're a people pleaser, depending on who you're interacting with, somebody may take advantage of that. And that's what you don't want, right? The important thing also to take into account is that we want to make sure that you're in the mindset of valuing yourself. That way you don't fall into these little traps. Because it is all, it's a great thing being helpful, right? It's great being helpful, it's great being detail oriented, but too much can go a long way, right? um like when you look at the detail oriented stuff, like I would imagine, if you get too far into the details, there's a possibility of somebody being OCD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an issue within itself. I
Right.
know it's not really taken seriously sometimes, but it can be an issue. Same thing with the helpfulness, same thing with being proactive, same thing with being really early to stuff. It's just you're talking about maximizing your time. You want to make sure that you don't have to be to a meeting 2 hours early or an hour and a half early. 30 minutes is fine, something like that, right? Being loyal in a relationship. Uh, well, I mean, I've had experiences and how that can be a pitfall, but yeah, being loyal in a relationship, sometimes a relationship, that's toxic doesn't warrant your loyalty. It's all for the sake of your mental health. It's one of those, like, I mean, perfect analogy. When you're on a plane, when they go over the safety protocol, when they tell you when the air mask drops, make sure you put it on yourself first before you help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same. I would take that analogy and apply it to life to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
I can't really help anybody if I'm in pieces.
Right.
Like, and I think, if we get in the mindset of making sure that we evaluate ourselves and know our own value and don't let anybody walk all over us, then we can be helpful without being, too far into the people pleasing negative aspect, right? So that's always a good thing.
Yeah. I think, like you said, there's a fine line between, being helpful and being a people pleaser, as there is, you know, um, gosh, there was something else you mentioned, right at the end of that. I forget, but there is definitely, it's tough because you can cross that line sometimes, and it's okay, if you're a little too helpful one day or whatever, I don't think you can track yourself like that. You can't say,
No.
I helped 5 people today, I cut that back, I can be helping 3 people a day, or else or else I'm gonna like lose focus on myself. It's just important to always make sure that in the end you're looking out for yourself, because like you said, you're not going to be able to help anybody else if you're in pieces, or if you're falling apart yourself. You're not going to be able to focus on that or give anybody sound advice or anything like that. um it goes there's a saying or just something like that I hear a lot and see on social media and stuff, is the person offering the most help is often the one who needs the most, um, and in some cases I think that can be true, but in order to avoid that type of situation where you're just giving and giving and giving and burning yourself out that way, um, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself at the end of the day. And it's it's very important to take into consideration, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, and just your entire situation, and make sure that you are living to the best of your abilities um before going out and not necessarily
Mhm.
hurting yourself, but putting in some ways putting yourself out so that you can help others.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, is exactly right. I mean, some of the other things here, uh, like having an outgoing personality. I mean, yeah, I think that's a positive attribute, but again, depends on the situation too. I mean, you give yourself out too much, when you don't have anything really to give, and that's not necessarily because I'm saying like, oh, somebody's useless or anything like that. No, no, it's not even that. It goes back to the analogy of the airplane. If you don't have the little oxygen mask first, how are you going to help somebody else out? Like you really can't, right?
Right.
Um, so I think the outgoing personality thing is great to be around, but you also want to know when to give that energy out and when to just kind of like keep it on reserve. Just because I mean we have different personalities. Not everybody's the same in terms of their personality. Some people will appreciate an outgoing personality more than others, and
Right.
some people, and again goes tying back to like valuing yourself and make sure that you value yourself. Um, you got to if you respect yourself, okay, well this person is just trying to take advantage of me. So, being so outgoing with this person might not necessarily be a good thing, and just kind of cut ties there or something like that, right? Um, yeah, we see that. I'd hear that also sometimes, like in the fishing community, like where people, like want to fish with somebody else, and then all of a sudden, like, hey, yeah, like I'm only trying to use you for fishing spots or something like that, or some. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but I've seen it happen. Um, so it's really it's really odd, and it's I mean it's odd that it's on there as a positive attribute because I think it can be both positive and a negative. Just because like um, it can be something where you can be easily taken advantage of.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been in that situation where, you're whether you don't want to ruin a relationship or whether you want to avoid some sort of conflict, I've been in a couple situations before where, I just say, okay, 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 sure, I'll do this, sure, I'll do that, whatever. No matter the effect it had on me, as long as they were happy and they were not, either yelling at me or upset with me or whatever it was. Um, it didn't matter how I felt at the end of the day as long as they were happy. And that's not the right way to go about it, because sure, it's good that I'm being nice and offering help and being willing to help out, but it's not good when it gets to the point of they are taking advantage of you because they know you can't say no, and they're just going to milk you for all you got. That's when you kind of need to reassess and, like you said, have that self-respect and understand that you're worth more than that. You are much more valuable than that, and you can do stuff. They can do stuff on their own. It's okay. It's not going to be the first time they've had to do it alone, and it's not going to be the last time people will have to do stuff alone. They'll be all right. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, the first time I ever said no to someone, I remember correctly. So there's I was going to school right out, and I had an internship, and some other guy from my school also had the same internship. So we became cool. I definitely won't call him a friend because he definitely wasn't a friend, but we were both cool and everything. And one day he calls me. He goes, "Hey, so I took my car to the shop, and you need to pick me up so I can go to work. And I was like, I'm like, I need to pick you up. Try again. And I hung up on him. And that was the time I kind of said no. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna pick you up. Like, it was like you straight up said like I need to pick you up. Like, who the hell do you think you are
Right.
telling me I need to pick you up? Like, yeah, that was the first time that I was just like no. And I think I got better at saying no over time.
Yep.
But
It's tough. Once you do it that first time, you can build up. I don't really remember a situation quite like that. But that's really funny. Yeah. It's like, seriously, dude, like get off your high horse. Like, come on.
he didn't like he knew he was gonna take the car in that day. He
Mm,
could have texted me 2 days, a day, or even a day before, like, hey, can you pick me up? No, the minute like he's dropped on his way dropping off his car, I need you to pick me up. What the okay? Like, no, I'm not gonna pick you up because you just hit me up out of nowhere. And you even said, can you please? Nope. You just said I need to pick you up. So I don't need to do anything.
yeah. I would have done the same thing. Just no, sir. I'll talk to you later. Get an Uber.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And like uh the good things I've had enough practice with that to the point where like now like when I'm on social media I can see who's trying to grift or who's not necessarily trying to grift but who's wants to take way more than they give. Oh, you think you went offline for a bit? We're gonna pause for a few seconds. Hopefully he comes back on. Hmm. Okay. Having a bit of issues. Give us a second. Hmm. Well, yeah. Let's see. We're having some issues. Let me see. But yeah, continuing to the conversation, like high function anxiety. So yeah, remember, it does mean that you're still getting stuff done, but um, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're free of anxiety, right? So it's, I guess, better than having that like the when the type of anxiety that keeps you from doing things, keeps you from going out, keeps you from getting started on something else like that's productive, like starting a business or something like that. Uh, yeah, it's important to distinguish and learn how to really kind of address that. So hold on, give me a quick second, and then I'll get them back. Okay, there he is. All right, you're back.
Hey.
You're back. Okay.
All right. I don't know what the heck happened. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I mean the plethora of technical difficulties.
It's
Anyway,
ridiculous.
yeah, but it's okay. We're almost done. We have a few more minutes left,
Right.
but yeah. So, I mean, outside of that, I mean, I think high functioning anxiety is not the end of the world, but it's definitely. I mean, at least from my experience, just from like it never really hit me until I saw that reel. Like, I think maybe it's not talked about a whole lot. I feel like I'm gonna bring it up to like again with other guests just to see what their perspective is and if they kind of can relate. But it's definitely going to be an interesting topic for a few episodes to come.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely not talked about enough, especially, I mean, it's the first time both you and I had heard of it just coming across Instagram. I think that's kind of crazy. Um, I definitely am interested to hear what your other guests have to say. I'll be looking forward to listening to those as well. Um, but I guess while we're here, how is how's fishing been down by you?
Ah, now the fun stuff.
I mean, unless there was anything else you wanted to add, I just
no, I mean, uh, Yeah, no, I think the conversation that we had around that topic was around those two topics were really good. No, but so fishing. So I just got into swim baits. So
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
I saw that.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, okay, back to negativity or potential negativity or whatever have you on social media. I know I hear people like obviously, I mean I've heard people either making fun of or criticizing other people because they buy a bunch of baits and they're only posting baits and they haven't even caught anything with it.
Yeah.
And granted, so I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, okay, buy a type of bait, work with it first, then once you catch a fish, at least switch to another type of bait, right? So I can honestly say I fell a little bit into that pit trap where I bought a bunch of baits because it was one of those things where it was more of a collection type of thing than it was. All right, I'm gonna throw this one. I'm gonna throw this one. And I've had swim baits for a while. I had a few of them. I just never knew how to work with them, dude. So I asked a couple people like, hey, how do you work a swim bait? And they finally told me. And the problem with it, I was working it the right way, like reeling it slow and everything,
Hmm.
keeping the rod down. The problem was that I didn't have the right setup. The
Oh,
line was a little weak. It was like 15, 17 pound test. And then the rod was like, it was a medium heavy, but the backbone was not for like a 1 ounce, 2 ounce swim bait.
no, right,
So
right.
now, yeah, now I mean, I got a swim rate. I got a swim bait rod coming. I
Oh,
got the Leviathan Omega.
heck yeah.
So yeah, I heard those are great and they're really expensive, but it took a lot of saving of pennies to get that one.
What are what are the specs on it? Is it like 8 feet heavy, extra heavy?
Eight feet
What?
heavy.
Nice.
Apparently, it still has a little bit of give, so it's not like a broomstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I got that coming over. Right now, I'm using a catfish rod.
Yep. That's all.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, yeah, dude. So, but I bought another catfish rod, and I'm gonna start catfishing and fishing for carp.
Good, good. I love to hear that, dude. I freaking love catfishing, and carp are a blast. Have you caught carp before?
No,
Oh, dude, I mean, people hate them, but they fight like crazy.
I've heard, dude.
I
Dude,
mean,
and your girlfriend caught that giant bass today, right? Or was it yesterday?
no, that was today, dude. Oh my goodness. I mean, she's ridiculous. She's absolutely insane. Whenever she goes fishing, it's game on. You know that there's about to be something crazy that she catches. Um, yeah. So she got a basically 7.3 pound bass today.
Dude.
I didn't even know what to say. I still can't believe it. I mean, it is impossible to come across a 5 around here. And she just gets a 7.3. Her previous PB was 2.2. PB
so
by 5 pounds.
so for the people that are not really familiar with fishing, so fishing up north because the waters tend to be a little bit cooler than than there's snow and everything. It stunts a lot of the largemouth bass's growth. So like Evan was saying, over there, a 7.5 is like almost unheard of. I mean, we're exaggerating a little bit, but it's pretty rare. Whereas
Dude,
here in Texas, it's a lot more common because, you can fish year round because, yeah, it gets a little cold, but it's not like, like it does in Wisconsin. So,
I mean, dude, I'm not even lying one bit when I say that fish is bigger than the PBs of every single person that I personally know who fishes. I mean, like when I say personally, I mean like I've met them face to face and they fish around here in the Midwest in like Wisconsin or Illinois. I mean, it was absolutely ginormous. It was like a ham, like a freaking ham you would eat at Easter. Like it was so thick. It was gigantic.
just so
And
we can put it in perspective for the people that are listening and watching, how tall is your girlfriend?
she's about 5'8".
She's 5'8". So, picture the fish being as long as from the top of her head, probably about a little lower than her waist. like
That's
from mouth to
ridiculous.
tail. Like that's how big the fish is for on a 5'8" person.
Jack-
So yeah, that's how long it looked that big, dude. Like, I mean, because I know she held it down a little bit lower than her head, but you know, if you, I
Yeah,
guarantee you, if you put it against her head, like it goes right at her waist, if not a little bit lower.
I mean, it was absurd. I have never seen. That's it's the biggest bass I've ever seen in my life, literally in person. I've never seen a bigger bass than that. And the thing is, when I weighed it, my scale was set to kilograms, and so it showed up as 3.3. I was like, what? This is not a 3 pound bag right here. Like this is at least five. And so I was pissed. I was like, what's going on? And then I was like, there's my scale's gonna be broken, like screw it. And she went and released it. And then when I realized it was kilograms and I did the math and it was 7.3 pounds, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. How did we not get better pictures and videos of this fish? Like I'm trying to get her to have it mounted or to get a replica done because around here, I mean, that's bigger than 100% of the people that I know. It's bigger than all of their largemouth bass PBs. It's
Yeah,
absolutely absurd. I mean,
yeah,
mine
it's
is
impressive.
5.5, and I've been fishing for like 18 years. Like, I mean, it's someone commented and said it's a bass of a lifetime in Wisconsin, and it really, really, really is. Like, I don't know that I will ever catch a bass that big in Wisconsin, and I couldn't believe it. It makes me so happy seeing her catch these fish. I mean, today she was on every other cast. It was just ridiculous. And we
Yeah,
brought.
what
Go
were you
ahead.
say?
I was just gonna say we actually ended up keeping some fish, so I kept some fish for the first time ever today.
Mm.
She caught two really nice perch, yellow perch, and so I kept them and fried them up for lunch. They were delicious. And then she also caught a pike that we kept, and my neighbor and I filleted up, and we have it just marinating overnight, and we're gonna make pike tacos tomorrow. So I'm really excited for that.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no pike. Well, supposedly there's this one lake up by the Panhandle, northwest of Texas. I
Yep.
mean, of Dallas. Supposedly there's a place up there that has pike. Supposedly, I don't know. Uh, but yeah, other than that, I don't think we have pike. We do have large bass for the most part. Yeah, so I think like a seven pounder for you would be like almost a 14-pound bass over here, or 15-pound bass,
Probably.
something like that. Like the equivalent of like in terms of like the rarity, right?
It would be a double digit for sure. It would probably be like a 12 or 13 for maybe 14. Yeah. I mean, I guess I really don't know how common like double digits are around you guys. I know they exist, but I don't know how plentiful they are.
So if you're gonna talk off the bank, they're harder to come by.
Uh-huh.
But like if you go to like different lakes here, there's places where there's just massive amounts of like double digits, and I've heard and seen people catching them. And obviously you have like the private lakes and the golf course ponds that definitely you'll frequent at least one double digit bass. But
I mean, even I feel like around here, even at the private lakes and stuff like golf course ponds, like they'll be like 5, maybe 6 pounders. But like, I mean, I sent this to a bunch of my friends when she caught it, and I was like, the scale said 3.3. Like, there's no. What do you guys like? What do you actually think this weighs? And I had like 8. That's at least a 7. Like, I'm like that thing with that thing could lose half its weight and still be a freaking 5. Like, come on. Um,
yeah, dude, that was
and
gnarly.
it was gigantic. I couldn't believe it. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And she caught it. So this is the most ridiculous part. I had no idea there were largemouth in that river. We were not
Mhm.
largemouth fishing. We were fishing for pike, and she just happened to run her rooster tail that she was using right over this big mama's bed.
All right, so I have your picture up.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if it shows on the video. There you go. That's how big that bass is.
Ridiculously big. I mean,
Yeah.
it was so fat. It's like I said, I still can't believe she caught it. That's how rare it is. It's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah, dude, no, I know. It's like out of Wisconsin, I've never heard of that.
it's
Granted,
just
I mean, I've only been fishing for about a year, but still, I hear,
I mean, I
people
have
talking
never
about.
even heard of people around here catching sevens. Like, I heard of, I'm thinking, there's fives around, and I've seen people catching, fours, fives, like, and those are good ones. People are like, oh, this is sweet. Like, I got a five. That's crazy. That's huge. And she just, I hear her. She goes, "It's a monster." I'm like, "Do you have a big pike?" And I go over there, and she freaking pulls this thing up onto the shore. I'm like, "You gotta be joking."
Yeah,
Absolutely nuts, man.
those are the best moments that really make the outdoors awesome and a way to really decompress yourself. I'm pretty sure your girlfriend can speak for that. Like in that fight that she had with that 7 pounder, is that the adrenaline that you get from that, like I remember like the first time when I caught a 4 pounder off a jerk bait on a 8 pound monofilament.
Hmm.
And the thing is, like, that was the first time I ever caught a largemouth, and like it was a light spinning reel with a 4 pound drag, dude.
Oh,
The 4 pound drag, dude. I was just like, I just had every single time I would reel in, like the line would speed up and then just going back and forth, And I was there finding it for like 5 or 10 minutes until basically it wore out, and I was able to bring it in. But
oh man,
but I remember, dude, the adrenaline. I'm just like, I want more. Like,
yeah,
I want to catch more.
right. I mean, the tug is the drug, baby. Like, golly, it's
Yeah,
just,
tug. What's
um,
the saying? The tug is the drug, and I'm picking up my prescription.
yeah. There you go. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just I couldn't believe it. It was this. I mean, dude, we were there for 30 minutes. Like 30 minutes. And she caught that 7 pounder. She caught like a 24-inch pike. And then she caught a foot long perch, which is really nice size perch. And then like another 9-inch perch, all in maybe like 20 casts. I mean, I was trying to fish, but I would finish helping her. I would walk back down like 20 yards to my spot. I would cast, and then she'd be freaking on again. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I got like 5 or 10, maybe 10 casts today. But it was awesome. I mean, I love it. I'm just it.
Dude. And speaking about like not trying to sound pretentious, but kind of a little bit. Like I do get I don't know, like if you feel the same way. Like I get a joy when I see people struggling at a pressured pond, and I come in, and
Yes,
like within minutes I catch a fish. You know, like
yes.
I remember one time I had a kid tell his I don't know how it started, but like I went in there, I caught a fish, released it. Then I see the kid kind of throw his rod, and he's like, and the dad's like, it's tough catching that fish. No, it's not. That guy just caught one. Why have we got one? I'm like, oh my god. It's like,
Yeah, there's at the on the Fox River that I fish right in downtown Green Bay. There's this spot that's pretty. It's public. It can get relatively crowded.
mm,
And I showed up there a couple weeks ago, and I think this was pure luck. I swear I just dropped my worm literally on top of a catfish's head, but these people had been there for an hour. They were getting nothing. I first cast dropped it straight on top of their head, like 3 seconds in. I have a catfish on. And it ended up being like 5 pounds. They were like, "You've got to be joking right now! Like you showed up, you've been here for a minute and you catch a fish." They were pissed, but eventually it slowed down for everybody. So I was like, "Yeah, that was definitely a fluke. I definitely dropped it right in front of his face."
hey, sometimes that's all it takes.
Right. I mean, I swear fishing is a lot of luck.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, so we're a little bit over, but it was fun talking about fishing in the last few minutes. So
Yeah.
before we hop off, any last thoughts on your fishing or high function anxiety? Any final thoughts you want to address?
I guess I just want to say that, you know, if you think that this is something you're potentially dealing with, you can do your own research. You can seek help if you feel you need it. You can talk to people. You can talk to Al. You can talk to myself. You can talk to, there's plenty of people that are willing to talk and help. Um, but also, I don't want people to think of it as, a disability or as an issue or something that's wrong with you, um, especially in terms of high functioning anxiety, because you're still kicking butt, you're still getting stuff done, you're still cooking, you're still rolling. It, it's not like it's the end of it's not like an end all be all if this is something that you struggle with. And if it is, I would strongly encourage you to seek help as needed, or if you feel that it's necessary, whether that be professional help or just researching or just simply talking with somebody. um, it can never hurt to kind of lean on somebody in times where you are.
Oh no, you went robot.
Oh boy,
Oh wait, you're coming back.
where did you lose me?
So, and basically, when you're saying like when you talk to somebody in times of, and then you went robot.
Okay. Yeah, just in time, if you can talk to anybody that, like I said, there's professionals, there's, your friends, your family, there's random people on Instagram like me that would be willing to talk to you and help out. But in times of uncertainty, or, if you're kind of struggling, it can never hurt to lean on somebody.
Ditto. So I guess my final thoughts. There's two things. One, I think I drove this point in the last episode that we had, and one thing I do recommend people. Um, I don't remember which episode it was. I think it might have been episode 14 or 13.
Yeah, one of those.
One of those. I do recommend people listening to that one so you can hear Evan's story and understand more or less like where he's coming from. If you haven't, if you have, I appreciate those that are listening and continue to support. I appreciate anybody's support, obviously. But so I do encourage that because it's a very good story. It's a very interesting story and a very impactful story. I think would definitely help listening. Also, in that podcast episode, we talk about how different labels don't necessarily mean anything, right? So we don't want to stigmatize certain things. We don't want to slap the label on somebody, just because it's easy. And also, something I said earlier in this episode as well, just because we change the definition of, or not necessarily change the definition, change the word of something is not going to help the issue. I think we need to talk about it more, regardless of what term it is. I think we just need to talk about it more and actually come up with a rational approach. Like we've seen with different things of mental health being recategorized, restructured, not restructured, recategorized, redefined. Wait, no, not even redefined. Recategorized, and the name of the same issue has changed multiple times throughout history. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give one example: PTSD. Throughout as time goes by, but we haven't done anything. So let's not get caught up in that. That's one thing I would definitely say. And also, with regards to high functioning anxiety, I think we can do like those that are struggling with it and don't even know, and if they're aware of it now, good. But I think we can try our best to slow down. That way, we appreciate the stuff that we have achieved and realize that it's okay. We don't have to really be so anxious all the time for in whatever way it manifests. So those would be my final thoughts.
Awesome.
But yeah, so all right, man. Thanks again. Your Instagram is, go ahead.
It's edc.outdoors. Thank you very much for having me on again. It's always a good time. But yeah, I appreciate it, and I look forward to our third episode in the future.
Oh yeah, dude. The topic of mental health has a lot of things we can talk about. So you're more than welcome to always come back on. hopefully it'll be a lot smoother the next time, because we ran into a lot of problems, a lot of scheduling problems, a lot of technical problems, but we got it done. But thank you for coming on again. And for those that are still listening and watching, thank you for the support. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you're tuning in for the next episode. And hope you all have a great day. And Evan, make sure you stay after I pause the recording so I can talk to you for a little bit. But to everybody else, have a wonderful day or week, where what have you.